little bit late, but welcome to City Hall to those attending in person and as well to those attending virtually. Calling the May 5th Westfield, Washington Township Advisory Plan Commission meeting to order. Will staff please first confirm the presence of a quorum?
Ms. Berkman?
Here.
Mr. Horke?
Here.
Mr. Johns?
Here.
Dr. Kelleher? Mr. Maui?
Here.
Mr. McCarty?
Here.
Mr. Schmitz?
Here.
Ms. Boljeric?
Here.
Dr. Kelleher? I know she is trying to join, so she will probably be in here shortly.
We'll hear from her when she's able to be connected. Item first, as always, is approval of our minutes of the previous meeting. 7 pages worth of them this time. Anybody have any questions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes into the record?
I'll make a motion for approval of the meeting minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second? Dave Schmitz seconds. Victor McCarty made the motion. Will staff please call the roll?
Ms. Berkman?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher? Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljeric?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Jenny, are you still not on? Give her a second chance at this. Nope. All right, moving on. Staff can please review the procedures for tonight. We have both types of agenda items.
Due to the COVID-19 emergency, as declared by the Governor of Indiana, the format and conduct of the meeting has been modified to comply with executive orders regarding the conduct of public meetings, public hearings, and public gatherings. Relevant portions of the Indiana Open Door Law have been amended or suspended during the pendency of this emergency. For public hearing items, the meeting will have the following structure. The department will summarize the petition. The petitioner will be then be given up to 15 minutes to present. The president will open a public hearing, and individuals present will be given 3 minutes to speak. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard, and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to commission members. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments, and the Plan Commission will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. For our non-public hearing items, the meeting will have the following structure. The department will summarize the petition and highlight any changes or modifications since the item was last before the Plan Commission. The department will also describe what action is necessary to be taken. The petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present any changes, and the Plan Commission will then act upon the petition. Our general rules of conduct this evening, we ask that you please not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time, and again, if you must answer them, please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regard to a petition that is scheduled for a public hearing, please fill out a yellow card, which is available in the back of the room as well as up front, and bring it to me prior to the presentation of that petition. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and we ask that you please not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you'll be advised when there is approximately 30 seconds remaining. If you are not attending in person and wish to submit comments regarding a public hearing, they should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will be forwarded on to Plan Commission members and the petitioner. We'd also like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Also, please mute your microphone when not speaking, and that does include the microphone here at the podium. There is a green light on there. If the light is on, then the microphone is on. If not, it is off, so please turn it on when you get up and turn it off when you're done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. There is one request for agenda change tonight. Everything is still on the agenda, but the petitioner for the first public hearing item, 2102-PUD-06, has requested to be moved to the bottom of the agenda. We have one item of business that we will move on to, the Courtyards of Westfield. Dane Crabtree presenting. This is in front of us for an approval of the primary plat and overall development plan.
Good evening, members of the Plan Commission. For the record, Kevin Todd with the Community Development Department. Item before you this evening is a primary plat and overall development plan for the Courtyards of Westfield, which is an 89-lot single-family residential development on about 37 acres in the Courtyards of Westfield Plan Unit Development. The item received a public hearing at your April 5th meeting and is now fully compliant with all of the applicable standards and is ready for your approval this evening. John Coffey with EPCON is here this evening. If there are any questions, I don't believe he plans to make a presentation, but is available, as am I, if you have any questions of staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't mean to interrupt, but I'm finally here.
Excellent, glad to have you here. Thanks for
Thank
speaking
you.
up. All right, in the lack of a petitioner presentation, we'll move on to see if there are any Plan Commissioner comments to bring up regarding this evening. Kristen Berkman, care to start us off?
Bob, thank you. I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Mike Johns, do you have any questions or comments on this petition tonight?
No, no questions, no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kelleher, you're just in time. Are you ready to speak to Courtyards of Westfield if you have any questions or comments?
No questions or comments, thank you.
Very good. Andre Maui.
No questions, thanks.
Very good. Dave Schmitz.
No questions, no comments.
Very good. Victor, did I skip over you? My apologies.
No questions, sir. Thank you.
I just knew that was going to be your answer. Cindy Spoljarek.
I'm sorry, I'm going to break the chain here. I got one quick question, it's just for my own edification here. The buffer area that is on the east side of the project up against the road, and it's got the buffer yard A or B, I'm not sure which. And it's got to have the landscaping in that buffer, but it's also a drainage and utility easement. And I was just wondering how all that pans out, if someone could just quickly explain that to me.
This is Brett Huff with Kinley Horn, the engineer for the project. There will be some areas where storm sewer will cut through the landscaping, but that'll just be 20-foot easement sections, and beyond that, anywhere else would be landscaped.
I guess my concern is we have this buffer yard that's supposed to be in here that was pretty critical for the overall effect of the property against the road. And now I'm just wondering if we're going to run into a situation where Public Works says you can't plant anything in there.
I don't know if anybody from Public Works is on, but yet that is their stance as far as drainage easements go.
So that
But
only
it's-
leaves 10-foot wide strip to do all the landscaping in.
Yes, we're required to extend storm sewers out to the road right-of-ways to collect the drainage along the roads. So it's a necessity to have those storm pipes extend out. We tried to minimize those as much as we could.
And this is Jason Coffey with EPCON. Thought I'd jump in as well. And I know during this process that the buffering is an important component of both 151st and Town. And we have been working with the city engineer as far as modifying any type of right-of-way and easements along there. So we're currently in a design function with them, but we agree with you that the intent is to continue with the landscaping and screening along Town.
This is Jenny Kelleher. Just a quick question. When you're talking about drainage and utility easements, is that going to go east-west or north-south along town?
It'll go just east-west along town. You can see the little white areas that extend out towards the right-of-way. Other
Okay.
than that, the drainage easement is actually on the lots for the most part.
Okay, so it's not like you're going to have a 20-foot strip all along town that's going to go away. You're just going to have periodic interruptions.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what I was trying to figure out, because that kind of just alters things for me. So I wanted to understand that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a pretty common design approach, right? I mean, there's going to be gaps in landscaping periodically for things like this. The count of, the required planting count will be planted. It may just be clustered a little bit differently to accommodate these gaps.
Thank you.
You're good with that, Cindy?
Yeah, I am.
All right. Thank you. I have no further input on this. That being the case, this is an action item for approval. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the primary plat and overall development plan 2014-SPP-07 and 2014-ODP-07 with the condition that all necessary approvals be obtained from the Westfield Public Works Department and Hamilton County surveyors prior to the issuance of an improvement location permit.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. It's been moved by Andre Maui and seconded by Dave Schmitz. Will staff please call the roll?
Ms. Bergman?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes,
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes,
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bulgarek?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Moving on, we will come back to Grand Park Village and go on to the Chatham Hills Section 6B public hearing. Petition 2105-ODP-10 and 2105-SPP-10. Is there any presentation from staff or the petitioner on this?
Yes, before you this evening for a public hearing, have a primary plat and overall development plan for 66 lots on 34.5 acres in the Chatham Hills PUD. This property is located northeast of 199th Street and Horton Road and was incorporated into the Chatham Hills PUD with a 2018 amendment. This item was properly noticed and advertised for a public hearing, and we have received no official written comments. Some items are still outstanding with this, and compliance will be confirmed prior to this item appearing on a subsequent agenda for consideration. We do have petitioners available on the call. However, they do not plan to present. They are available if any questions do come up. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go ahead and open a public hearing on this item at 7:17. Do we have any cards from people within the house here?
Yes, we do have one card, Mark Jennings.
Okay. Please come forward, make sure the microphone is on, and state your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Mark Jennings. I live at 145 East 199th Street. I'm calling because I basically had questions about this development that was addressed initially back in 2019. And it has to do with the S-curve on 199th Street, which is on the southeast corner of this development. I have contacted Westfield Public Works as well as Hamilton County Highway Department to try and get some agreement or advanced knowledge of what their intention with this S-curve and this roadway will be. I've received no response from them either in 2019 or recently when I readdressed this issue with those two bodies. The problem is 199th Street needs to be rebuilt. It is insufficient for the traffic flow. It's insufficient for width to get any sort of vehicles larger than a standard car through it. The road's being torn up. In 2019, I had asked this body to accept a request from me that the developer had agreed to allow for any expansion or width of the roadway to only occur in the northward direction from 199th Street in this S-curve. And that was put into the minutes of January 22nd, 2019, for 1812-PUD 31. Since then, 2 years later, I have no idea what the road's going to become, but I know that myself and my neighbor both have properties that abut the road exactly to the edge, and we really don't want to come around in a couple of years with Public Works saying, we got to cut down all your 200-year-old trees and expand the road because we didn't plan. And so I'm asking if anyone has I don't know, there's somewhere down there on page 3 of the plat, you'll see a curve here, and perhaps that is indicative of a change in the S-curve road design. I'm unaware of that. My understanding from 2019 was that Public Works intends on maintaining the same speed and S-curve in this road, but I haven't received any word from anyone. I've certainly asked, I've gone out of my way to contact the right people. Nobody seems to know what they're going to do with this road. But I know as the homeowner, I don't want the city to come back in a couple of years and say, we didn't plan, we're going to take over your front yard. I don't want that to happen. And so if we don't have a good plan for what this road's going to become, I really don't think that we should approve this.
Give 30 seconds.
That's what I have to say.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other cards?
We have no other cards, thank you.
And we have no emails from anyone either?
That's right, no emails.
All right. While we determine if we have somebody on the call or here in the building that can address the comment that we've had, we'll wait just a moment. If there is anybody attending virtually that intends to make a comment, please make it quickly, or at least shoot us a note to planners@westfield.in.gov to let us know that you're attempting to make a comment. And we'll close the public hearing in about a minute if we don't receive any emails. If your inbox is still empty, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Do we have someone who can address current status of the concerns on the S-curve?
This is Phil Sudling with Hankey Development. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I caught the tail end of that. We have been working with the Public Works group for quite some time. I don't know if you guys remember. I think 2 years ago we came through with the zoning on this, and there was a commitment to take on or dedicate rather more right-of-way on basically our portion of this ground to accommodate that the repair to that 199th Street S-curve. The design here that you see does accommodate that. We worked that out with John Nail, the city engineer. I don't know if he's on the call, but yes, that is accommodated here with our design.
So you're speaking broadly that the need to smooth out that curve and keep it safe is in process, not so much finalized. We don't have an actual design, or it might be within our materials tonight, but it's all going to occur on the Chatham Hills property, and the adjacent homeowners are not going to be impacted, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we've accommodated the dedication of additional right-of-way for when a project does occur there on 199th Street. That's correct.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. That item is, I believe, been addressed. We will go ahead and do a round of opportunities here for Plan Commission comments, starting with Mike Johns.
I'm a little concerned. I mean, I understand what Phil just reported, but it looks to me like that right-of-way goes right through lot 31. And is Phil saying that they're going to give up lot 31 to run the road through it? Is that what's going to happen? I guess that's a question that I have.
Hey, Mike, Phil Sunley again here. We will probably need to make an adjustment to that lot 31. What I'm seeing here, I don't know what you could see kind of the align or the curved alignment there. I believe that is the additional dedication, public or right-of-way dedication. Yeah, so that lot 31 will likely need to get pushed back, I guess, a little bit further to the west to accommodate that. That's correct. But
Okay.
lot 31 should still be. As you can see there, it's a really large lot. That lot should stay there. It'll just shrink down.
Okay, all right. I have driven that road, and yeah, that's going to take some reworking to make it safe. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. No other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kelleher?
No, my only concerns were the same, that this was a commitment to either downsize or eliminate lot 31 if need be in order to accommodate that, so there is no land taken from the private citizens to the east and the south, while still maintaining the appropriate buffer yard along the perimeter there. And it sounds like they are making that commitment.
Yes. Anything further?
That was it.
Thank you. Andre Maui?
I too had that same confusion about that overlap, and I understand the answer, and I don't have anything else. Thanks.
Thank you. Victor McCurdy?
Same concerns, but thank you, that is all.
Dave Schmitz?
Nothing additional, thanks.
Very good. Cindy Spaljarek?
Same concerns, and I am concerned even with the way it's looking like it's going to be fixed. The fix looks dangerous to me. And I'm just concerned as this area continues to build out, and knowing the condition of that road, I'm really hoping that that's going to be enough for this to be a safe access point. Thanks.
Thank you. Kristen Berkman?
I'll just echo everyone else's concerns on this one, that I'll look forward to seeing that remedied and in writing when it comes back. Thanks, Bob.
Very good. I didn't have anything further to add, and I would perhaps caution everybody that the curve that you see on the drawings in front of us isn't a solution to the problem, but it's an indication of where the solution will occur. The design is yet to follow, and that will be addressed in further plan submittals. So if there's nothing further on Chatham Hills, we will go ahead and move on to the next public hearing item, 2105-ODP11 and 2105-SPP11, Agility.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Pam Howard with Community Development. Before you this evening, we have a primary plat and overall development plan for 2 lots on approximately 5 acres located at 16466 South Park Drive within the South Oak PUD District. As the property currently exists today, there are 2 parcels, one of which lacks road frontage. The proposed primary plat would reconfigure the boundaries to create 2 conforming lots. Any proposed vertical improvements will appear on a subsequent consent agenda for approval. This item was properly noticed and advertised for a public hearing, and we have received no written public comments. There are still some outstanding items for this petition, and compliance will be confirmed prior to this item appearing on the subsequent agenda for final consideration. I do have the petitioners here virtually again. They do not plan to present, but are available for questions if anything comes up.
Thank you. We will open a public hearing on this item at 7:29. Is there anybody in City Hall that has any comments to make regarding this? And if there is anybody attending virtually, please hustle up and at least send us a note to planners@westfield.in.gov to let us know that you're intent on making a comment, even if you can't type quickly enough. But we'd like to keep the meeting moving and not wait too awfully long for written comments, so please type quick. If your inbox has nothing new in it, I will close the public hearing at 7:31. Commissioner comments, starting with Dr. Kelleher.
Just a question for Pam. If you could show the original picture you showed, you said they're making this into 2 lots, and of course, the one at the north is landlocked. So how are they going to accommodate access to those 2 lots? Is that something that's going to come before us in the future? Or?
Sorry, what's shown on that original picture, the location map is how the lots exist today. So that is a non-conforming situation with no access. So if you pull up, Kevin, the other one. So if you see this one, it's divided into 2 lots, and the rear lot does have an easement, so over further. Yeah, if you zoom in.
Okay, out to the South Park Drive.
Yeah, so if you see lot 1 has 70 feet of frontage right here along South Park, so it will have an access drive going up to that rear lot. And then the front lot has, full access.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Andre Maui, any questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Very good. Victor McCarty.
None from me, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dave Schmitz.
None for me, thanks.
Cindy Spoljarek.
None, thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Berkman.
None, thank you.
Very good. Mike Johns.
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I too have no questions or comments. So we can go ahead and move on. This will come back for further action at a future meeting. Item next is 2105-PUD-16, Winterberg PUD.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. For the record, again, Kevin Todd with the Community Development Department. Item before you this evening is a new single-family residential planning and development proposal called Winterberg. The acreage is approximately 154 acres, located north of 186th Street, east of Casey Road, and south of 193rd Street. The PUD proposal contains 2 residential districts, which I believe the petitioner will get into, but with underlying districts of SF3 and SF4. The petitioner held a virtual neighborhood meeting on April 28th, where there were 2 neighbors that appeared at that meeting, and they had questions regarding drainage, home types, and proximity of the homes to existing neighborhoods. The item before you this evening is scheduled for a public hearing. It was advertised and noticed properly for a public hearing this evening. The department has received a few comments, written comments that came through email over the last few days. A couple of those made it in time to be posted on your agenda. One came after the posting deadline, so I think we forwarded that to you via email, so it should be in your inbox late this afternoon. If you didn't receive it already, it should be there. So with that, Mr. Dobashewitz with Nelson and Frankenberger is here to present further details on this project and should be available for questions after his comments. Thanks.
Can you show the whole picture?
Yeah.
And then I'm fine with you driving and we can identify the areas on the exhibit. Good evening, Plan Commission. For the record, my name is John Dobashewitz, and I'm a land use professional with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner, Platinum Properties Management Company. Paul Rio of Platinum Properties was not able to be here this evening, but present tonight is Ann Klock of Beezer Homes, who is the proposed home builder, and Jim Schinover, an attorney with our office. As indicated, the matter before you this evening is the proposed Winterberg Plan Unit Development District, which is a rezone request to permit the development of a single-family residential neighborhood. The real estate is outlined in yellow on the exhibit on display. The site is generally located west of Casey Road between 186th Street and 193rd. So for Plan Commission members to your left and audience to your right, 193rd is along the north perimeter, Casey Road along our east perimeter, and 186th Street along the south perimeter. Eagletown Road is to the west of the exhibit, 1/4 mile removed from the site over to Eagletown Road. To the north of the real estate is the Atwater community. It's the area shaded in green here that's been annexed into the corporate limits of the city of Westfield. To the east are the Emery Trace and Lancaster communities. To the south is William Trace and Water's Edge. Williams Trace here, Water's Edge neighborhood to the south of that. As well as to the west, approximately 50 acres of agricultural land that you see along our western perimeter, a 20-acre parcel here and a 23-acre parcel to the south there, one with frontage on Eagletown and one with frontage on 193rd Street, as well as single-family lots which front both Eagletown Road, 186th and 193rd. Those single-family lots which front 186th Street are here immediately adjacent along our southwest perimeter. There are single-family residents that face 193rd Street, which are further removed off the page closer to Eagletown Road, as well as several additional residents which front Eagletown Road. The current the current zoning of the real estate is AGSF1, and Platinum is seeking to rezone the real estate to the Winterberg Plan Unit Development. The PUD will have, as indicated by staff, SF3 single-family as well as SF4 single-family as the underlying zoning classification as a transition with lower intensity as one would work from east to west across the site. You can advance, Kevin. This exhibit is the Westfield Comprehensive Plan map overlaid with various surrounding developments reviewed over the last 15 years by the Plan Commission and City Council. Again, Atwater and Osborne Trails and Chatham Hills are to the north. Our site outlined in black, Atwater, Osborne Trails, Chatham Hills, all to the north. Spring Mill Trails and Lancaster are the east. The Spring Mill Trails development, which has several different neighborhoods to our south, including those I mentioned earlier, as well as Shelton Cove and Arbor Grove. The Lancaster development, if you're familiar with that space out there and you're at 186th and Shelbourne, there's some townhomes that are being constructed as well as duplexes in that vicinity, as well as single-family homes to the north across from Grand Park. The 50 acres of agricultural fields immediately adjacent to the west of the single-family homes, further along 186th and Eagletown Road. You can see on the map that area that's identified as New Suburban extends over to Eagletown Road. However, there are some large single-family home sites along Eagletown Road, as well as a couple here along 193rd, and then working over to adjacent to our site along 186th Street. But that 50-acre parcel is intervening, which is agricultural fields today that is west of and adjacent to the subject property. As I indicated, this area that's New Suburban on Westfield's comprehensive plan is where this type and style of development, including a mix of residential uses and lot sizes, even though this plan is exclusively for single-family detached homes, is contemplated under the terms of your comprehensive plan. The area designated as rural northwest is shown in tan and is approximately 1/4 mile removed to the north across 193rd Street, again 193rd, to the north. That area that would be anticipated to be rural and preserved in rural northwest is to our north by more than 1/4 mile, and also to the west by 1/4 mile removed from the site, transitioning along Eagletown Road. But I did mention that there are individual single-family residences on acre-plus lots along Eagletown Road, as well as 193rd and 186th Street. In regard to the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, larger lots and lower intensity zoning will be used to create a transition from east to west within Winterberg, with more significant open space next to the existing homes along the southwest corner of the site, and I'll show that in a minute on our site plan. Additionally, it would be anticipated that if developed in the future, because we can't speak for those owners that aren't subject to the petition on file, that the 50 acres of agricultural land to the west bordering existing homes along Eagletown would be subject to further transitioning in terms of lot size and sensitivity towards the larger home sites which exist along the western perimeter of those parcels, not of the 50-acre parcels, not of the subject real estate. If you can advance one, Kevin, please. So this is a context map to help put in perspective some of those other surrounding developments to our site. It further illustrates the surrounding neighborhoods shown in the area. You can see individual home sites on the north side of 193rd Street. There's some individual home sites to our north here, and here a home under construction here today. Atwater with 2-family dwellings to the east of that. Emery Trace across Casey Road with single-family homes. This is the Lancaster development with considerably higher density, upwards of 3.5 homes per acre. Lancaster 2, which the Plan Commission saw earlier this year, 186 Northview Church, Shelton Cove, William Trace to our south. One can see the subject parcel is adjacent to these existing agricultural fields to our west, and then adjacent to existing neighborhoods. There's one parcel intervening. This is an approximately 80-acre parcel with a couple houses that exist along Casey Road. The 80 plus or minus acres is owned by one owner, Mary Ann White. If you would advance, please. As proposed, Winterberg will consist of 2 residential districts, Area A and Area B. The exhibit on display identifies those 2 districts. Area A is generally closer to Casey Road and 193rd, again with Atwater to our north with 2-family dwellings. Area A is positioned here. Area B with the larger lot sizes, 70 and 80 foot wide lots and more open space is identified along our western perimeter and southern perimeter. Area B is located along the western and southern areas of the real estate as a transition in terms of lot and home sizes with larger lots, minimum of 80 foot wide, along the west perimeter of the site bordering the previously mentioned 50 acres of agricultural fields. Approximately 170 homes are included in Area A, and Area B would include approximately 155 of the larger home sites. If you could advance one, Kevin, please. The concept plan for the site is now on display. Access to the neighborhood will be from primary entrances on Casey Road and 193rd Street, with secondary connections via planned stub streets to the south and east and west to provide connectivity to those parcels as required under the UDO in the event that those parcels develop in the future. A trail network is shown in red and will provide connectivity through the neighborhood to the Little Eagle Creek Trail to the south and north, providing over a mile of additional trail connectivity. If you follow Plan Commission members on the exhibit, that trail network comes through our site. And the reason we have such an expansive trail network through our site from generally southwest to northeast is because we don't control that area that's identified on the thoroughfare plan or alternative transportation plan as the Little Eagle Creek Trail. That doesn't mean people don't want to walk. It just means we don't control that real estate. In the future, that area may develop and that trail would be installed, but we want to provide that same trail connectivity, which is exists today through Water's Edge and Shelton Cove to the neighborhood to our south. It stops right here. So there's a trail that comes south and picks up, goes behind lots in Water's Edge and connects up right here. It may be in the future when the area to the east is developed that the trail will continue along the Little Eagle Creek corridor, but we pick it up with asphalt path along the north side of 186th Street, connect it with us through our site up to this point. It comes through Emery Trace, through Atwater, through Osborne Trails, and ultimately through Chatham Hills to get up to the Monon. It creates a triangle. The triangle would be that space that is identified as the Little Eagle Creek Trail running generally southeast to northwest, southwest to northeast, the Monon, and then the Midland Trail to create a circuit for folks to enjoy the trail activities that the city has designated under its network. Again, while this trail is not the Little Eagle Creek Trail, it will provide parallel connectivity until and after the Little Eagle Creek Trail may be constructed in the future in areas which are off-site. One significant feature of the plan is that the homes along the perimeter streets, both 193rd and Casey Road, will face outward toward those roads with access along a parallel frontage road, so the traveling public and neighbors across the street will have the view of the front of homes rather than the rear or side. So you can see all the lots along 193rd, all the lots along Casey Road, all point outwards. There's not individual driveways. That question came up at our neighborhood meeting. They're all accessed via a frontage road and would have just the individual access or streets connecting to Casey Road and 193rd. Additionally, the site's been laid out with an effort made to provide open space and pond view to all interior lots with tree preservation along the perimeter lots, adding value from a site design standpoint to the neighborhood. If you could advance, Kevin. Thank you. Character exhibits of the home products are included in the PUD, and a few are illustrated here. As noted, Platinum is the developer and Beazer Homes will be the proposed builder. Today, Beazer Homes builds similar home product in the West Rail community along 161st Street and Ditch Road. Beazer plans for development and construction of homes in Winterberg as a follow-up to their West Rail community, which would anticipated to start in 2022 construction, with occupancy of the first homes beginning in very late 2022 on into the spring of 2023 as the initial homes would be occupied. If you could advance one, Kevin. Architectural standards for Winterberg are patterned off the architectural requirements in West Rail and require all homes to comply with these standards, not only those houses which are regulated under the UDO, which would be along the perimeter of the site. Both Area A and Area B will include a mix of ranches and 2 stories. All homes within the development will comply with high architectural standards above those, as I indicated, that are required under the UDO. As noted, homes along these streets will require them to face 193rd and Casey. On average, sales prices of $390,000 are anticipated in Area A, with an average sale price of $460,000 in Area B. The overall neighborhood is anticipated to have an average sale price in the low 400s. If you could advance one, Kevin. Regarding amenities, Winterberg boasts over 30% open space, which is twice the amount required under the UDO, which includes a network of the trails that I indicated a moment ago, along with linked open space and which are structured to allow greater connectivity and walkability for residents of the community and surrounding developments. Additionally, considerable natural open space will be provided adjacent to the existing homes along 186th Street. Again, Plan Commission members, to your left, there are existing homes in this area, and in addition to the pond, which the ordinance requires compliance with this concept plan, we have to come back to you as a Plan Commission with compliance with this plan, as well as the path network and existing tree preservation in this space. The trail system will be open to the public and maintained by the HOA, connecting developments south of 186th Street with those north of 193rd. Several pocket parks are also planned along the trail network within the site. The proposed site design also affords a great number of lots backing up to open space, adding value to the community. And the final slide. In addition to passive recreation, the PUD also requires active amenities, which would include, at a minimum, a community swimming pool and bathhouse, as well as a large playground. One point in the staff report that staff had noted that they'd like to see a location more central to the site for this amenity facility, and we'll work with the staff to determine appropriate location, perhaps more centrally located to the development to provide better access for all the residents. The thought prior to the comment from staff was that the amenity facility would have a backdrop of the existing tree stand, which is going to be preserved at that proposed location. So you can see it was planned right here. It had the backdrop of the existing tree preservation area, and it's likely that we could relocate that space, more larger lots there, and removed lots here to create a more centrally located spot, which is more accessible to the balance of residents in the community. In conclusion, we had a neighborhood meeting, as staff indicated last week. Staff noted which those items are that were discussed, and there is also a summary of that meeting included within the materials available to the Plan Commission. We appreciate your time tonight, look forward to your comments, look forward to working with you and staff on making site plan and other adjustments to the plan before returning back to you with a request for a recommendation onto the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the public hearing. Opening the public hearing at 7:49. Do we have any cards for City Hall attendees to speak?
We have no cards.
No cards. Anybody attending virtually that has an interest in commenting on Winterberg, please shoot a note very quickly to planners@westfield.in.gov. We'll hold the meeting momentarily while we await any written correspondence and then close the public hearing if there isn't any within the next couple of minutes.
Bob, this is Jenny. I have a question. I didn't get online right away, but in the minutes, it said that Randy Graham made a motion at the very beginning of our minutes, but he wasn't present. So something the staff might want to look at.
Yeah, last meeting. We can take a look at that. We'll review it, and if it needs amended, we will bring it back at the next meeting. So we'll just hold off on signatures.
All right, thanks, Pam.
Thank you. It is now 7:51. If we have not received any written correspondence, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, public hearing is closed, and we can move on to Plan Commissioner comments, and we'll start this round with Andre Maui.
No questions or comments.
Thank you. Victor McCarty.
So I apologize in advance, but I kind of wrote down my thoughts and my notes beforehand, just so I could try to say as concise as possible with this. As you know, John, you gave me a courtesy call, and I really appreciate it, that I am a part owner and with my mother on the parcel at 1616 186, just adjacent to this property, being proposed. So I wanted to write down everything just so I could be concise. So first I wanted to add transparency to my connection to the area. In short, my grandmother and grandfather built the 1616 house on 186 in the 70s, and all this land, including what's being proposed, once belonged to my grandfather's uncle, who lived in the current Woods property, which is behind 1616, and its backyard is what the lake is there. So a long time before I was even thought of, but again, I want to be transparent, and both my mother and myself were raised in this house, and after my grandmother's passing last year, we now own it. Something I did think of that was ironic is that my mother's middle name is actually Winter, so for it to be Winterberg, I just thought that was funny. She is opposed to this project, but most of her reasons are outside of the APC control. Those included traffic and infrastructure improvements, for example. If this project were to be improved, Casey would be very much so in need of the road impact fees that would be entailed with this, especially with Atwater and Lancaster, more developments going in, 1,000 homes that are coming to our area. We definitely want to keep the roads safe as possible. But with that being said, I voted yes to Lancaster Phase 2 because it was in addition to an already existing PUD, and it'll help the walkability safety for our area. Very much so appreciate that. But with Winterberg being by itself, I'm trying to evaluate on its own merit and as objectively as possible. So I know that development is inevitable, and even with it being in my backyard. I agree with neighbor Randy Inman, who made public comments before and then sent them in. That mentions the property at hand being used for hunting, as I've seen and heard that throughout my life. So of course, nature conservation is a concern. I will say that I really appreciate the petitioner's effort for conservation along 186, as in my eyes, that is a must. I really do appreciate that with connecting to the trailhead. I believe I've set a precedent in the past regarding density, so I took a look at the comp plan, and I could be wrong in my interpretation, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I found. In reference to the comp plan, in Chapter 2, Land Use, Section Rural Northwest, Northeast, on page 31, it says, the currently envisioned gross density for these areas is low, no more than 1 unit per 3 acres gross density. And then it goes on to say, if land converts from agricultural uses, it is encouraged to develop in the form of rural or conservation subdivisions with substantial open space, which again, appreciate that, 186. Higher gross densities, though, are permitted up to 1 unit per acre, may be permitted only in conservation subdivisions. So again, I just wanted to gather my thoughts, and I appreciate the conservation along 186 and the extension of the Little Eagle Creek Trail that is actually currently behind my Water's Edge house. So again, I think that's funny. I love the Beezer home designs, but what I'm hung up on is just the high density use, so.
And if we couldn't step back to this plan, I think a couple of the neighbors who submitted letters this afternoon, when you take the plan and you identify it like this, and you take those standards which you talked about, the conservation subdivisions and rural and 1 home per 3 acres, up to 1 home per acre, all that is accurate, but it's not applicable to this real estate because it's applicable to the area that's in the rural northwest. Is that accurate, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I would agree. I'd go back and double check that. but,
I don't think the
yeah.
people who wrote the letters this afternoon had this exhibit available to them. They were probably just saying, well, what do I think about the space rather than what do I think about the space in concert with the comprehensive plan. This site, as well as the surrounding sites to the north, south, and east, are all designated as new suburban, where what you had read out is attributed to the rural northwest space, and that extends all the way over to Eagletown Road. We do have to acknowledge, though, that there are existing residences along 186th, 193rd Street, as well as Eagletown Road. But as I indicated in my presentation, there's 50 additional acres, which is between this property and those homes that are facing 193rd Eagletown, where that transition, even more transition and sensitivity is going to take place adjacent to those parcels, but still under the new suburban designation in our comprehensive plan, which isn't the up to 1 home per acre designation. That's out in that rural northwest space. So I just want to make sure we're all reading from the same hymnal in terms of what the basis is regarding the comprehensive plan. Staff noted it in their staff report, and they identified as that new suburban space. The ideas that were shared in those letters are attributed to the northwest and a rural designation, not this designation. So if we all start with the same basis for our discussion in terms of what the comprehensive plan identifies the site as and calls for, I think that's going to help frame the discussion. Nonetheless, we understand that there needs to be sensitivity towards transition from east to west, and we're going to work with the Plan Commission and with council and with staff on enhancing that and identifying it in a way that's acceptable to the Plan Commission and council. But I didn't want to get back to up to 1 house per acre, because this plan calls for just over two homes per acre, where it's different from Atwater, which is like almost 3, and Lancaster, which is almost 3.5 homes per acre, and those other communities you mentioned, Lancaster too, that's upwards of 3 homes per acre. So we're considerably less dense than those adjacent neighborhoods, but not 1 home per acre, which clearly isn't the expectation under the comprehensive plan.
You're done, Victor? Okay. Dave Schmitz.
There's elements of this plan that I do really like. I appreciate the fronts of the houses on 193rd and on Casey Road. Really appreciate the trail network and kind of, if I understand correctly, kind of filling a gap to, at least in the short term, create a viable trail that will substitute for the Eagle Creek Trail until it's completed. I like the 186th Street treatment, and I like the effort that you've gone through to in your 2 areas where the divided line is, and to have a distinction in lot sizes from east to west. I guess I would hope, and I understand the distinction between the new suburban and the rural, and the accuracy of what you're saying of the standards that apply to each. I guess I would like to see a little more creativity in the, if it's a conservation subdivision or something to kind of create even greater open space. But there are elements, I like the pocket parks, At least I see the one on the west, and I think you mentioned there were even more than that. A lot of the open space is set aside for detention, I believe, so I don't know. There, like I say, there's elements of this that I really like, and I
That's the
suspect you may make some changes that would even improve it.
Yes. Yeah, the layout with the multicolors. There, thanks. So Dave, not to put words in your mouth, but the ideas that you had shared with perhaps some more active open space in addition to the areas with the ponds for more recreation internally to the site, the open space you're talking about?
Uh-huh.
Okay. We can take a look at that, as well as the lot size distribution. It's tough when we have a site, I mean, like the UDO calls for 15% open space, and we've got 30, and that was all in an effort to continue to get this network of open spaces and trails through the site that are gonna add passive, but we'll continue to look at it.
Does your 30% include water areas, detention, retention areas, or is that pure the grass and?
It would include those open space, it would include those wetland areas because of the path network through the site, which allows, it qualifies those spaces for open
Wetlands,
space.
sure, but on the south end particularly, but what about the detention areas through the?
Yeah, the UDO specifies that these need to be opened up for active use, so that's the trail network in through there, so that works up to the 30% as well.
Including the ponds? That's all?
Including the pond
Okay.
space.
All right, thank you. I'm fine.
That's not something we're asking for a waiver from, it's something
Right,
that's.
that's the standard, that's
That's
how
the
it's
standard.
calculated, yep.
Thank you. Cindy Spoljarek?
Thank you, Bob. I don't know where to start with this because there are some positive features that I do like to see, like the front of home facing our right of way, that kind of thing. I have great concerns. I did not approve of that water. I voted against it. And granted, it was more dense than this, but it was also on the principle that we're getting far out. We're getting near that border that we consider rural. And it is a blurry line. Everyone makes it a hard line, but it's a blurry line. And as this transition happens, I feel like it needs to be a meaningful transition. And when I look at 8,000 square foot lots, that's not a meaningful transition for me. I get very concerned when we are approving another 300 plus homes, and we already are inundated with new homes. We have a record number of housing permits for several years now. This is the kind of thing that is contributing to that, which is good and bad. Our infrastructure up here, I don't believe, is ready for this kind of development. So at this time, I can't support this project. Thanks.
Thank you. Kristen Berkman?
Thanks, Bob. John, do you know what % is water of that open space number of the 30%? I was interested in that as well when Dave was talking about that.
I'll find out.
Okay.
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, that'll be great. And then, secondly, I guess I'll go to architecture next on that. I'm not a huge fan of a list of 15 to 17 different things that can make you compliant for architecture standards, because that can be a very wide variety. And as we all know, a PUD lives on regardless if Beazer ends up building this out or not. So I'd really like to see things like that tightened up so we actually understand what would be built there. And so I'll just leave it at that. If you need more clarification on that, let me know.
Yeah, Kristen, if you could take that list with you and go through West Rail and kind of identify those things that you prefer and perhaps wouldn't prefer to be eligible for consideration to meet the ordinance requirements, that would give us an opportunity to evaluate those and trim some of those off that the Plan Commission and Council would find appropriate to remove and have that list narrowed, that bandwidth narrowed of architectural elements.
I can do that. I guess I think some of the items on there, you're probably going to do on every house. So if you're gonna do it on every house, then it just should be a standard. And then there's these extra elements that could give you the variety versus the monotony. So we can work together
Yeah.
through staff on that,
Good,
if that's
good.
okay.
Because we'd be taking a stab in the dark at what you might prefer one over the other if we didn't have that feedback.
Kevin, that's okay? Okay. I guess overall, my thought on this project, and I had asked staff, and I just decided in the spirit of transparency to kind of talk about it tonight, and I don't know if he passed this along to you, John, but this area's really been a hot spot, I feel like, since I've been on the Plan Commission. And we had some things in an approved PUD where that was already done. So we've been looking at those. Maybe Lancaster fell in that. I'm not sure exactly every name. But we have a lot of new construction going on in that area. And as I drive through, so it's me taking a visual, and I really want to get the data.
Context.
Yeah, that'd be great to pull that up.
The next
So what I'm really getting concerned about in this area is that we're pretty homogeneous, where maybe the price point of houses, the look of the houses, the lot sizes are getting very homogeneous in this area. And it should be transitioning to have some bigger lots, I feel like, as you get closer to the rural Northwest. So I'm just overall concerned. And so the question I posed to staff was, could we get a chart that has all the densities of all these different neighborhoods, where they are in the construction process? And staff didn't have that at hand, and they thought maybe you would, John. So it is something I'd be very interested for this whole area to see where we are out there and what's going on and the density, and to make sure we truly are transitioning as we move. There's just a lot going on, and I think we've just got to take a moment and see where we're at in this area of the city. So that's a request I have, and that's why I'd like to see that.
Okay.
So however staff or you want to work that out, I would appreciate it.
We'll assist staff in preparing that.
Okay. Okay.
We've got lots of numbers for the surrounding developments, whether that's, Atwater's at 2.75 homes per acre, Lancaster's at 3.4, developments to the south, they're over 3 homes per acre. This is going to fall out at a little less than 2 homes per acre. So 1 to 1.5 homes less an acre than the adjacent neighborhoods that we talked about. We understand that the Plan Commission and the Council are looking for larger lots. They're looking for more variety in home price. The homes that are being built in Lancaster today, whether that's there or at Atwater, those are from the low 200s.
Okay.
And these homes are going to start out from the mid 3s, and that's in Area A, which is adjacent to Casey. Area B is going to be in the mid 400s as an average. And everyone will tell you that I don't get up here and tout numbers that I can't come back and look at later and tell you we met those, because I would not be up here as often as I am if I was doing that. And the reason we're conservative on those numbers is we want to report back to the Planning Commission when questions like this come up in the future. We're delivering those. So homes from the mid 3s and mid 450,000, I think is a dramatic difference between what's out there today in Atwater and Lancaster 2, to a lesser degree the neighborhood south of 186, but there's Shelton Cove and the Arbor community. I apologize, I can't remember the name. Spring Orchard, I think it is, as well as Water's Edge. This is going to be not several steps up in those cases, but a step or two, and several steps up in the case of Atwater and Lancaster to our east in terms of value and lot size.
Okay. I appreciate you
That
pulling
doesn't mean we're not going to
together.
work on it. I mean, it doesn't mean we're not going to work on it, but I just want to kind of, let's set the stage for the discussion.
And thank you. So I'll appreciate you working on it, so we have it on a sheet, and we can really make sure that we are providing housing to our community that's a variety and fits a lot of different people and lifestyles. So, which is something that we have in our comp plan.
Thank you.
So the other just couple things, read through the ordinance. I didn't see where you said you were gonna front face the homes in the ordinance, and I could have missed it, and I tried to go back through it here quickly.
It requires substantial compliance with this concept plan. So I can't come back to you with houses backing up to the street because staff would identify that
How-
it's not substantially compliant with the concept plan. So you can see all along this northern perimeter, that's a frontage road, houses facing the street. Nonetheless, to make it crystal clear, we'll write into the ordinance that
Thank
those
you.
homes shall, without question.
Okay.
I couldn't do it
just
anyway,
didn't
but
see how
we'll
that-
put it in there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then the last thing is, and this is kind of back on the architecture a little bit, you have a choice of a side-load garage, yet none of the character exhibits, which would be what you're supposed to be following in compliance, have a side-load garage. So are you really offering any side-load garage homes, or?
No, they will be available
Okay.
on all on 80-foot wide lots, and then typically on, as well as those that face a common area or corner lots would be eligible to have a side load, but we'll take a closer look at it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. I know I had a lot of questions tonight. Thank you.
No problem, it's a group effort.
Thank you. Moving on, Mike Johns, questions or comments?
Yeah, I've just got a few. First of all, I'd like to thank the petitioner. I really like the efforts that they've made to improve the trail continuity, maintain trail continuity, and open it to other areas. That's important. I do like the pocket parks throughout. I am a little concerned that 30%, a lot of that area is retention area and water, and really not really usable from a recreational standpoint. My biggest concern with the project, I guess, goes back to what several folks have said, what Cindy Spalgeric referred to, and it is, maybe it's the proximity that we are between the line for suburban and the rural areas. I think that the petitioner is making a stab at that transitional density thought, but I don't think it's significant enough. I know I can see what we've done in the past. We're pretty darn dense with a lot of these subdivisions, with Lancaster, with Atwater. But when you get into this gray area, I don't see it as being a line in the sand where one side of the street is rural and the other side of the street is suburban. On one side of the street, we've got 5-acre lots, or 3 to 5 acres, and the other side of the street, we've got 0.2, 0.3 acre lots. I think it's got to be significantly more of a transitional area than that. And I would like to see, I mean, what I see here, I almost feel that the lot should almost be twice as large in both Area A and Area B to make it any kind of a significant transitional. So at this point, I just ask you to go back and take a look and see what you can do to make it a little bit more transitional. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kelleher?
Oh, where do I start? Well, I want to echo what Mike Johns just said. The idea for those of us who went through the comprehensive plan process, which was a 2-year process, was to provide significant changes in decreasing in density, and not just for a decrease in density, but to decrease from a type of home to a different type of lifestyle potentially. Every time we take up a farm field and develop it, we lose open space as a community. And there is no line that says on one side of the line you can do 3 homes per acre, and do 1 home per 3 acres. That isn't the way it's supposed to work. And to argue that, if we get a note from staff saying the comprehensive plan is not law, it's a guide. But I can tell you, when a developer comes in and says, I'm on this side of that line, it becomes much more significant than maybe it should be. And granted that the developers are trying to get their product approved, but my job as a Plan Commission member is to honor what the people in this community drafted as a comprehensive plan. And it was to transition from one use to another one and do that not in insignificant ways. I mean, I drove up there today. There are houses everywhere. It is just, when this is all built out, there's no way I'm going to go near that area because of the congestion. I'll take another route. And I feel sorry that a lot of that happened, but again, it was already zoned that way. Creativity and design is lacking here. We have sterile retention ponds. I have seen communities take these retention ponds and actually kind of connect them as a waterway that would go from that northeast one down to another one and eventually connect with that, the southern portion, which has wetlands and ponds and things like that. This is just your typical, put my houses in a row, stick my water behind them. I had the same concerns about the front load garages. One of the things in the comp plan we talked about was to minimize those. And it seems now we've just become numb to that's what we're going to get. There are, I could say a lot more, but basically this is too dense. This area already has a lot of density. It already has a lot of homes of this type. I drove by an area today along 161st Street, and there was a man that went to the BZA to get approval to have 4 lots, but have them come off a common driveway on the north side of 161st Street. And I saw the sign, it said 1 acre lots, and I called. He said, I've got 1 left, and I'm selling them for $220,000. So there are people who want that. I hope they don't have to pay that much to get it. But we are just, hopefully everybody's read the comprehensive plan from pages 17 to 45, and not just the buzzwords that we often hear from a developer, but the real meat of it. It's not just density, it's how you create a subdivision. And this is just a very vanilla, typical, and I know that John has the ability to do better. I know he is a smart man, and so this is an absolute no for me. We need to start transitioning, and it's not once we get to that fuzzy little line, because I'll tell you what will happen when we get to that fuzzy little line. People will say, well, we got to move it. So that's all I have to say.
I appreciate those comments, Dr. Keller. In addition to the information that we agreed to assist staff with providing the Plan Commission at the request of Ms. Berkman, we'll try to provide some indication of what the comps are in terms of property values in that space. I don't think there are other neighborhoods in the vicinity that are $350,000 to $450,000 average price points. They're more in the terms of low 200s and up through 3. So we're as I indicated earlier, maybe in price value, not that that's the end all to be all, but different in comparison to the surrounding neighborhoods. But again, we'll provide that data for the Plan Commission to consider, and we'll work on the transition from east to west in terms of those lot sizes as was requested.
Yeah, and staff, can you show the very first slide that we had, which was, I think, the aerial view? It wasn't that one. Maybe it was the next one.
Second.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we've got developed up here. And then go back to the first one again. And now there was another one that showed farther west, because when you look farther west, there we go, that's it. You're already in rural residential, you know, so it isn't all of a sudden at the yellow line, you transition. You got to start transitioning before. You got to start transitioning at your Casey Road line. We just haven't done a very good job as a Plan Commission for our community doing this. Thank you.
And just to recognize that that's why we have hearings. That's why we're in front of the Plan Commission. That's news to us. I think it's news to the staff in terms of the direction or the interpretation that they're hearing tonight from from Plan Commission members where we have a comprehensive plan that's got a map attached to it that says, here are the standards for these spaces, not standards, but guide. And if we need to work on a transition that's more further removed from the Eagletown Road through our site, that there's opportunities for that. And we'll work on it based upon the information that we've heard tonight. But we started out with a plan a few months ago in coordination with staff and reviewing your documents and your plans. And it's a revelation of sorts on what we're hearing tonight regarding the adjustments in thought process regarding transitions, and that might result in a change to the comprehensive plan that would more clearly speak to the expectations of those who would develop in the community. So, thank you.
Well, I think many of the staff, I don't know if Kevin was here when we did the comprehensive plan. I know Bob was. And it was a long process. And it wasn't like you just draw a line and then boom, you're different on the other side of the line. And it wasn't just about density. It was about how you use that density. So it, don't just read through what the little paragraph says on southwest or northwest new suburban. Read the rules on the next few pages that say these apply to all suburban. That's what applies to this area too. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Thank you. I'll wrap the round of comments by not reiterating, becoming repetitive, but I think we've hit on a lot of good points that I agree with. And to your point that it's maybe a somewhat recent enthusiasm that we have to try to emphasize what we're emphasizing tonight. It is something that came up in Sycamore. It is something that, as Jenny alluded to, we've had an expectation of doing a better job of this. We need to do it as well as we can now and not do anything that's, attempt to do anything that's non-compliant. But I think I had made the comment to you that when we're looking to try to determine how we're transitioning, we shouldn't need a spreadsheet to figure it out. It really should be obvious by the layouts that we're looking at that we are no longer at a given density, and the values of the homes are not really material to this. What we're looking for, and you can have really pricey small homes as well as fairly inexpensive larger homes. We're not here to talk about home values, but land use, and we really do need to do a better job of looking at transitions over a longer period. And I think the importance of water versus green space is also something that probably all of us really want to know more about, because while you have the trails and residents will appreciate the water within their communities, it's not as usable as actual green space with amenities or even without amenities, but open spaces feel different when you're walking on them as opposed to looking at them. So I just leave you with a couple of more important issues to me is show me something I don't have to actually look at a spreadsheet to figure out. You've made a change from east to west, and that you actually have places where the people that are ultimately going to live there can actually enjoy their surroundings. Are there any Jenny, something else?
It's Jenny. I just want to say one other thing, and this is in general about PUDs. We wrote our PUD ordinance in order to create the ability for developers to be creative and be flexible. And frankly, when I get sold, these are going to be SF3 and these are going to be SF4, I understand that means that's what the underlying zoning will be and it will follow those criteria. However, SF4 is a 9,000 square foot lot. The ones in this are 7,800. SF3 is a 12,000 square foot lot, and these are 9,450. And it's not just this development, it's any development that comes in. So I don't know how that becomes more creative, or maybe it just becomes more lucrative, but it has always concerned me.
Thank you. If there aren't any other commissioner comments, we'll move on, but we've been at this for a while. Has anybody come up with any additional thoughts they would like to share tonight? I'm not going to call names, just jump in. If not, we'll look forward to seeing you back here with something a little fresher and newer to look at next time. Moving on from Winterberg, we will now look at 2105 PUD 17, Osborne Trails Phase 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening, we have a proposed new PUD district to be known as Osborne Trails Phase 2 PUD. This 60-acre site is located at the southwest corner of 199th Street and Horton Road. The proposed development would be an expansion to the existing Osborne Trails neighborhood currently under development to the west, adding 192 single-family residential age-restricted dwellings subject to the same standards of those being built today. This item was introduced at the April 12th City Council meeting. A neighbor meeting was held on April 26th, and a summary of that meeting has been included as an exhibit on the agenda. This item was properly noticed and advertised for a public hearing this evening, and we have received no official written comments. I do have the petitioner's representative, John Dobashewitz, here to present, after which both he and I are available for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Good evening again, John Dobashewitz, Nelson Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner here in this matter, Lennar Homes of Indiana. Present tonight in the meeting room is Keith Lash of Lennar, as well as Jim Schooner, an attorney with our office. As noted by staff, the matter before you this evening is a public hearing on Osborne Trails Phase 2. Kevin, if you could advance to the location exhibit or the context exhibit. This is a similar exhibit to an exhibit that we just saw, and it puts into context some of the surrounding developments. To the north is a development the Plan Commission saw earlier this year. Chatham Hills, as well as Caramore's, this is our site surrounded in yellow. Caramore's the development to the north. Areas of Chatham Hills, Monon Corner, the item previously on your agenda this evening is the real estate situated right here. This is Osborne Trails today to our west and to our south. And this is the area of Osborne Trails that's currently under development. And by the way, if you haven't had a chance to drive out there, please take an opportunity to. The clubhouse is phenomenal. That's where we had our neighborhood meeting. I think there was a grand opening last Friday for the residents in the community. And there's a lot of excitement surrounding that for them. The real estate consists of 60 acres, and it's located on the west side of Horton Road, about a half a mile north of 191st Street. Kevin, if you could advance to the next slide. The location is also shown on this exhibit. It's currently zoned AGS F1 today, surrounded by properties that are exclusively all SF4 underlying zoning. You can see the west current sections of Osborne Trails under development. That's the space here, as well as sections of Chatham Hills considered earlier this evening. That's the parcel. It's this space right here that's already been annexed into Westfield. The next slide, please. Lennar has filed a rezone application for Osborne Trails in order to extend and continue the existing Osborne Trails residential community that is currently developing. In this regard, the original Osborne Trails PUD district was improved in 2017. As you may already know, Osborne Trails is an age-restricted 55 and older residential community that caters to buyers seeking to combine a social and active lifestyle with a one-of-a-kind home design. Since its opening, homes in Osborne Trails have been selling at a brisk rate, and the community is being embraced by the buying public. Lennar envisions an additional 192 homes on the real estate, as shown here, serving as an extension and continuation of the existing Osborne Trails community. Access will be from Horton Road, as well as stub streets connecting Osborne Trails to the west, Caramore, previously approved this year, to the north, and future areas of Osborne Trails to the south. The concept plan has been designed so that nearly every lot backs up to open space. Common area proposed for Osborne Trail is approximately 25%, include path connections between adjacent subdivisions and Osborne Trails. The path network's a little difficult to see. It's the double black line, so there's a path today in Osborne Trails that would continue north into this site. North, there's a path connection in Caramore that it picks up to and then connects over to Chatham Hills as well. There's an additional trail stub located here. We'd pulled that trail through our site over to the sidewalk network and out to Horton Road. So lots of additional trails and open space within the development. Further, it should be noted that the amenities provided in the existing Osborne Trails were designed to accommodate and absorb the development of the proposed additional lots. Therefore, the homes on the subject real estate of tonight's petition would be subject to the same covenants and restrictions applicable to the existing Osborne Trails in order to ensure the enjoyment and shared maintenance cost of the significant and beneficial Osborne Trails amenities by the residents of the entire community. Osborne Trails will continue to offer the same 3 home product offerings as being built today in Osborne Trails, which is illustrated by the 3 color-coded designations. If you could turn to the next slide. The next 2 slides include images of the existing and proposed home product, which include the same architectural and development standards. The various home product offerings in Osborne Trails were specifically designed for this community, exclusively this community in Westfield, Indiana, and are not being built anywhere else in the central Indiana market. Lennar anticipates the average sale price to be approximately $290,000, $360,000, and $415,000, depending on the 3 different designated lot offerings, home product offerings. The next slide, Kevin. As noted, Osborne Trails includes significant open space with passive and active amenities, including 3+ miles of walking and bicycle trails overall that meander throughout the site, in addition to the additional network of paths included within the subject area, which connect over to Horton Road. The next slide. I apologize. This is of the amenity facility. The 10,000 square foot state-of-the-art clubhouse shown here, which includes a workout room, craft room, large indoor gathering space, and kitchen, as well as other amenities. Again, this facility is open. There's a grand opening last week. These photos hardly do it justice. Again, if you have an opportunity to drive out there and see this facility firsthand, it would be great. We'd encourage you to visit the site to see the facility firsthand. In conclusion, the same development amenities, architectural standards, and home product offerings will be provided as exists today in Osborne Trails, including the same covenants and restrictions applicable to Osborne Trails. We had a neighborhood meeting on April 26th, held at the Osborne Trails Clubhouse, which was attended by about 20 of the residents. A summary of the discussion topics is provided in the information available to the Plan Commission. We appreciate your time tonight. At the conclusion of your consideration this evening, we'll work with staff to address outstanding issues with them before returning back to you, requesting a recommendation to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go ahead and hold our public hearing on Osborne Trails, starting at 8:31. Do we have any cards from folks at City Hall?
We have no cards.
No cards. Anybody attending virtually that has an interest in making a comment on Osborne Trails, please very quickly email planners@westfield.in.gov. We'll hold the meeting for a couple of minutes awaiting any emails and then move on. It is now 8:33. In the absence of an email, let's close the public hearing. Is there no email, I assume?
Correct, no emails.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. We'll do a round of commissioner comments, starting with Victor McCarty.
Don't have as many comments as I did last time. With this being a project that is already established, I don't have any further comments since the initial Osborne Trails was approved before I was here. So I'll just leave it to other commissioners that might have input on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Schmitz.
I'm a big fan of the HOPA compliant neighborhoods that we have, and I think they have a real positive impact on us from a tax standpoint, and good home stock and different alternatives for the community that are great. And this appears to be pretty consistent with what was done in the rest of the subdivision. So looks good to me. That's it.
Thank you. Cindy Spoljarek?
Similar comments to what we've heard already. I do have a few things, and it's something I should have mentioned before on any of the other petitions. We need to be adding severability clauses. I don't know if our attorney is present or not, but that is something that they've been asking for in the PUDs whenever there's the duration clause, I guess. So just something to add in, please. And then concerning the open space, the language just to say shall be as generally shown on the comp plan, on the concept plan, I don't feel comfortable with that. I think when it comes down to compliance, that's something that's very hard to determine. So I would like something more descriptive in there. And if we could, I don't know, I should have gone through the original Osborne Trails, but if there could be an assessment of the way this is meeting those standards of that PUD or how it's different, I would just like to understand that so I can know how it is different from the original. That's it. Thanks.
And we can respond to that. The severability clause that Ms. Spoljarek mentioned is included in the ordinance. Open space will work with staff to provide additional specificity. And how it's different than the other Osborne Trails, it's not. It's a carbon copy in terms of the development standards applicable to these. It's intended to be a seamless transition and expansion of the existing Osborne Trails.
Thank you. Kristen Berkman?
John, I apologize, I don't know the answer to this, but in the current Osborne Trails community, are they using the black four-board fence in that area?
Yes, I
Yes.
apologize. This is Keith Lash with Lennar's in the third row, and I just wanted to make sure before I answered. I believe it is. And
Yes, so
he
that'll
confirmed.
provide continuity going along Horton Road. I do like that you're doing that along Horton Road, so that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike Johns?
John, are the lots on the new concept plan the same size as the lots in the original Osborne?
The three are identical.
They are, okay. All right, okay, it's hard to see here. Yeah, I don't have any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Dr. Kelleher?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Very good. Andre Maui?
No questions or comments.
Very good. The fact that this is the same as Osborne Trails' original version, I'm curious as to why it is being presented as a separate PUD instead of a amendment to the original, if it's truly a carbon copy identical to it.
It's a distinction without a difference. It's just that there are existing residents today within Osborne Trails, so if we wouldn't want to amend that petition that applies zoning to real estate that we don't own. So it's a standalone ordinance, but it's the same standards that are applicable to Osborne Trails today. So to amend someone's zoning, we have to have their consent.
Okay. You just didn't do this soon enough. Just kidding.
No, staff, I didn't know if staff was going to mention something. We did talk with staff about that early on. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. It's just.
It's one more file that we have to keep track of. We've got a community full of PUDs that have gotten out of control, and it just seems like if we had one less, that would be beneficial. I'm not the one that has to administrate them, but.
It's either that or keeping track of another amendment. I mean, for us, it's 6 1, half dozen the other as well. I
The
mean, it
distinction
doesn't.
without a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I've used to illustrate things myself in the past. All right, I don't think we have anything further on this. We'll wait.
May I ask you a question?
Sure, absolutely, you just did.
The Plan Commission has, the next we would be back in front of the Plan Commission would be your first meeting in June. That's June 1st. Does the Plan Commission see here the need to delay till the first meeting in June or come back at the second meeting in May for consideration of a vote? And I have no preference. It's just based on the number of comments that we got with very little to do between now and the next meeting. I didn't know if you thought we needed the 30-day delay between meetings.
At least I would normally defer to the recommendation from staff. If there's so little to do that can be done in that period of time, that's fine. There's no reason to just arbitrarily wait. Typically, if something is warranting that, they'll flag it for us that we can move on a little more quickly, but
Yeah, so
are
John,
we,
given,
are we expected to have a second May meeting?
we will have a second meeting in May. Given that it's Wednesday, I mean, revisions would be due back by the end of this week. So if you have time to turn that around.
So we'll determine if we can turn around in 2 days. If we can, we'll be on the next, at your discretion. And I wouldn't have asked had we not just been through the public hearing process with no comments, very little from the Plan Commission. It's kind of a game time decision. Do we ask? Because 2 weeks is an additional 2 weeks. So.
Right, and I'm fine going either way. If this was going to be the only item that brought us to a meeting, I might be a little less inclined. But if we're going to have a second meeting anyway, if you're able to get ready and show up. Happy to have you.
Thank you. We'll work to that end, but if you don't see us in 2 weeks, it's because we needed the extra couple days.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Item next is 2105 PUD 18, Maple Knoll PUD Amendment 4. This is here for a public hearing, but it's also to the point where if we are comfortable, staff has indicated we would be able to go ahead and consider acting on this evening.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening, Commission. For the record, Caleb Ernest with the Community Development Department. The item presented before you tonight is an amendment to the Maple Knoll PUD District. This area addressed in the amendment is approximately 6 acres and is currently zoned the Maple Knoll PUD. The area is located generally at the southeast corner of State Road 32 and Spring Mill Road, north of the Meyer location. This PUD proposes modifying the accessory use and building standards to allow for dumpster enclosures to be located within the established front yard along the frontage road. This item was introduced at the April 12th City Council meeting and is asking for both a public hearing and recommendation tonight if the Plan Commission is satisfied with the petition. This item has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no comments. John Dobashewitz and other representatives of the project are here to make a brief presentation, and both they and I are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Again, for the record, John Dobashewitz with Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner in this matter. We saw you a couple months ago with an initial signage request. Panda Restaurant Group and the owner Meyer Stores is our client, and I believe Valentino Mancini with Knorr Architecture and Planning may be on the call virtually, as well as Jim Schinover with our office. As noted, the matter before you this evening is an amendment to the Maple Knoll PUD specifically regarding this one issue, amendment pertaining to trash enclosures and the UDO provisions that apply to the outlots along State Road 32. So exclusively, if you go back to the site location, exclusive of that space outlined in yellow, only those outlots along State Road 32 between the frontage road. So there's Myers parking lot. You know it's out there. Myers parking lot here, Myers building. These are the outlots along the frontage road. This is the gas station today. This amendment only applies to this space because 3 frontages over here, 2 frontages over here, and the need to locate a dumpster enclosure on the site. As explained by staff, the real estate's outlined here in yellow. It includes only that space of those lots. The amendment would only pertain to that space. If you can go to the next one. Oh, I think we can leave it on this exhibit. The proposed amendment pertains only to the subject outlot area. The applicant seeking text amendment approval to the Maple Knoll PUD, which is the subject underlying zoning, as it pertains to the location of the proposed trash enclosures for those outlots along State Road 32. To this end, the accessory building requirements of the UDO shall apply. However, screening of receptacles and loading areas shall be modified to permit trash enclosures to be located within the established front yard of the frontage road. And if an enclosure is oriented toward the right-of-way, then the opaque gates may be oriented towards the right-of-way as well. And then if we can go to the example, you can see here on the example, this is a development plan that was previously approved by the Plan Commission subject to this amendment. This is the Panda Restaurant, and this is their building, State Road 32, Spring Mill Road, and the frontage road in the parking lot. Their proposed dumpster enclosure is located here. Technically, it's in a front yard because we have 3 frontages, front along State Road 32, front along Spring Mill, front along Spring Mill Point Drive. So this amendment would allow Future uses, like what might be here, another restaurant with a dumpster enclosure which sits closer to the frontage road than the building does in this situation. It would not allow a dumpster enclosure to be situated on the lot where it was between the building and State Road 32. It would not allow that. Would only allow it to be located in the front yard facing or most closely oriented to Spring Mill Point Drive, which is the frontage road. The unintended application of this provision in the UDO has been addressed in several of the recent PUDs for properties along State Road 32, and the Community Development Department staff is in support of the amendment to address development on the subject State Road 32 outlots. In conclusion, as the President indicated, in the event that there are no outstanding items for Plan Commission or public comments to address at a subsequent meeting, we would ask that you make a recommendation this evening on this request and forward it to the council for adoption consideration on May 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. This item does require a public hearing, which I will open at 8:45. Are there any cards?
No cards.
No cards. And we will wait for 2 minutes to see if anybody that might be attending virtually has an interest in making a comment on this item. planners@westfield.in.gov. Please type quickly. It is now 8:47. If we have no emails, then I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Quickly through the commission, if we have any questions or comments on this, starting with Dave Schmitz.
No questions, comments.
Very good. Cindy Spoljarek.
I do have one issue, and this is from experience looking at trash enclosures around our city, and it's the gates. We have a problem with enforcement on that, and in at least half of what I see around, those gates are hanging open. And the problem I have, I guess, with this request is that the doors, the gates, can be fronting that frontage road. And so potentially the effect is a bunch of dumpsters, you know, with open gates, and that's what I'm worried about. If the gates were not oriented to the right of way, but the trash enclosure was in the front yard, I'd feel differently. But it's having those potential gates open for the right of way, that's a problem for me. That's it.
Thank you. Kristen Berkman.
No additional comments. I'll just look forward to the answer to Cindy's question. Thank you.
Okay. Mike Johns.
I don't know, I'm going to kind of wait to hear the answer. I think Dr. Kelleher had made some suggestions regarding the trash enclosures, and I'd kind of like to hear what the comments are in response to her suggestions. Thank you.
We can give John an opportunity to do that. I'm not certain that the other examples that you're referring to are going to be quite applicable here, but let's go ahead and hear your thoughts on the concern before we continue on with the rest of the Plan Commission comments.
I don't know that it's so much a concern on interior lots, which all the others are other than the Panda site, because technically the Springwell Road is a frontage, even though they're removed on the other side of the site from it. So that in the situation of this lot, which has 3 frontages, 1, 2, 3, we would need that to be positioned in such a manner where it would open towards the west. The other situations, like what's illustrated here, it would not open towards the roadway. One or two options would exist there. We would ask for the recommendation based on the situation that exists today. And between now and council, we would have an answer. Could we amend the ordinance so that it wouldn't apply to any lots other than the corner lot, or would it be stricken that the gates couldn't face the gates? We would amend it so the gates couldn't, without the Plan Commission's approval, the gates couldn't face Springwell Point Drive, if that would be an acceptable alternative to the Plan Commission.
That somewhat diminishes the reason for doing what we're doing if we have the potential of something having to come back to Plan Commission.
So if
And
the
the
Plan
purpose
Commission,
of this is to try to
if the
unify
Plan Commission
this.
settled that they wouldn't want the gates to face the interior drive, then we would accept your recommendation with that adjustment. I just know we need the allowance for Panda because Panda's gates technically, even though there's going to be another use on this site, these gates technically face that street frontage.
And being able to assure that they're closed is obviously something that's impossible for us to do tonight. Because it's the
it really is
employee
the-
that's putting stuff in there.
It's
and
the standard in the ordinance, and,
Yeah.
and it like I think Cindy indicated, it's an enforcement issue, so
Right.
it's just, it's a policing matter, and if they send out somebody and the gates are open and they ticket them, then that may create a situation where they're more inclined to keep them closed, if it's a problem.
One would hope. Cindy and Mike, does that give you any comfort?
I
Yeah.
guess I could accept it for this specific situation, and I'm guessing that if those gates were to be open, I mean, it's gonna be very visible and somebody's gonna say something, I know I'd probably, unfortunately, be calling community development. I don't want to see those gates for the rest of the other ones that are part of this request, the rest of the real estate, because I think it's not something I want. It's already tricky to have a trash enclosure in a front yard. It also then just prevents you from even being able to screen those gates at all, obviously, because you'd have to have access. So if it were amended to take that out, it'd be okay with me.
I agree.
Can you clarify what you are indicating should be taken out?
That the gates should not be oriented to the right-of-way.
Specifically Springwell Point Drive.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
And that adjustment that staff described allows this configuration that you see on the Pan Express lot, and this configuration shown on the adjacent, but it wouldn't allow any of the other outlot users to have their dumpster enclosure with the gates that face south.
So that'll need to be added to, right?
Yeah,
That language will need to be added to clarify that.
Yeah, I think it's actually, there's a sentence from the ordinance that we'll delete,
Oh, delete.
because it would, yeah, the text in the ordinance, we'll specify that it shall not face Springwell Point Drive.
Where'd it go? No, that's.
So you're referring to the last sentence that says if an enclosure is oriented towards the right-of-way, then opaque gates may be oriented towards that right-of-way.
Yeah, so the addition to that is gate shall, in no circumstance shall gates face Springwell Point Drive.
I don't know. Where the
Okay.
exhibit-
Kevin, I did that same move about 10 times and I got the same thing.
If I keep doing it, if I do it the
Just-
11th
just-
time, maybe it'll work. Yeah, we'll get that worded properly.
All right,
But we'll agree to make the adjustment, would ask for Plan Commission's recommendation, subject to the adjustment.
correct. So are you good, Dr. Kelleher?
I'm good. And just so John knows, when I think Mike Johns mentioned some pictures of dumpsters, this was just a general discussion because we occasionally have sites like this that do have more than one road frontage. So we were talking in general about, should we have an ordinance that allows that so people don't have to come in, to modify a PUD? And I sent in some pictures of dumpsters that were behind the strip malls on Michigan Road between 106th and 116th, I think, as some ideas, but it wasn't something specifically that was supposed to go to you. It was just kind of a general discussion. So
Got it.
I'm fine with the modification.
Thank you.
And that's what I was alluding to, that it's not really something that was a dialogue amongst us in anticipation of this, but a broader look at these things.
Yeah,
So,
for the
all right,
record,
so you're good then?
I would welcome a universal solution, so we don't have to do this every time.
Yeah. We'll work on it. Andre Maui, any questions or comments?
I have nothing that hasn't already been addressed. Thanks.
Thank you. Victor McCarty.
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right. So this being the case, we're looking for a recommendation to council subject to the language change that we have just discussed. Is anybody inclined to make a motion to that effect?
I'll try. I always like to be the guinea pig, I guess. I will make a motion for a positive recommendation for 2105-PUD-18, Maple Knoll PUD Amendment 4. I was trying to remember what Roman numerals are. Subject to the agreed upon adjustment that gates shall not face Spring Mill Point Drive. Is that adequate? Okay.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dave Schmidt, second. Victor McCarty, moved. Will staff please call the roll?
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljaric?
Yes.
Ms. Berkman?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks for your time this evening.
You're welcome. One thing you don't have to come back for. We have fewer people in the room. Honestly, I don't know if the faces are different and same. Do the representatives for Grand Park Village PUD, are they present now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you guys hear?
So we will go back and do item one of the public hearing items now, 2102-PUD-06, Grand Park Village PUD Amendment 4. Dane Crabtree presenting by Kevin Todd.
Yeah, actually, this is Kevin. I'm pinch hitting here for Dane. So good evening again, Plan Commission members. For the record, Kevin Todd, Community Development Department. This item before you this evening, Ordinance 21-06, is an amendment to the Grand Park Village PUD. This amendment is specific to the westernmost, outlined on the screen here in yellow, westernmost area of Grand Park Village, located south of 186th Street, east and adjacent to Kinsey Road, and identified on the concept plan of the PUD ordinance as a single-family attached and multifamily area. The Grand Park Village PUD establishes underlying zoning in this area as MF2, multifamily, medium density. However, the single-family attached dwellings which are for sale townhome dwellings, which is part of the proposal here this evening, and single-family detached dwellings are not permitted by right in the MF2 underlying zoning district, so that is the nature of the request this evening, to allow those as permitted. Each of those dwelling types that are being proposed would fit the New England / Cape Cod architectural style of the Grand Park Village concept plan and conceptual exhibits. I don't know if we have images of those, but I think we do. We can show those in a minute. This item is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. It was properly noticed and advertised for that. This evening on the call now is Phil Sunling with Hinkie Development. And Phil, I don't know if you plan to make a presentation or not, or just available for questions, but they are now on the call.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kevin, can you hear me?
Barely.
Yes.
Good evening, members of the Plan Commission. Phil Sunling here again with the Hankey Development Group. I almost feel like I should kick this over to John Dobby-Shaywitz so he can pitch a complete game tonight, but I suppose I can give him a brief rest. As Kevin noted, before you is Ordinance 2106, which is an amendment to the Grant Park Village PUD. Just to provide you all with a little background on the Grant Park Village, we came through originally in 2012 with the PUD. We've since developed a number of very high-quality projects, including the Wellbrook facility and the Cambria Hotel along 186th Street. We've also developed the Primrose School and the Coyne Veterinary Center along 181st and Wheeler Road. Additionally, we've developed 220 multifamily units with the Charlestown project there on the south end of the lake at the village. All of these we feel are really high-quality projects that fit perfectly with the original vision of Grant Park Village. Part of that original vision in 2012 included a portion of ground to the west, as Kevin noted, that was contemplated for single-family attached and multifamily development. Goal with this ground was essentially to provide critical rooftops to support the village-like commercial area, the retail ground there along the lake and the boardwalk to the east. I think it's important to note that Grant Park Village is a different type of mixed-use development than what you traditionally see at like 191st Street and what you see at State Road 32. Attracting commercial users for us here, which I know we all want, will rely far more heavily on adding rooftops. We are actively working on and really excited for the first retail development along the north side of the lake, which we're hoping to start later this year. We continually hear from potential users there that they need to see more walkable rooftops in the area. And with that, we feel that this particular piece of ground on the west, within the 220-acre development, overall helps really accomplish what we hear from these groups. We feel it also complements and supports the vision around the lake and the boardwalk, really the energy hub and the walkable amenity set for all of Grant Park Village. We feel that the retail and commercial ground will thrive with not only the Grant Park visitors, but especially with folks that want to call Westfield home permanently. Regarding the specifics of the amendment, our plan is essentially threefold. One, we'd like to further define the development standards within this portion of ground. Two, allow for additional units. And three, include an allowance, as Kevin noted, of a Cape Cod style urban single-family detached product. Regarding the site plan, we are proposing essentially three different product types in the community, all of which are included as character exhibits in the PUD amendment. Just to give you a feel for how this ground will lay out, starting at the north end from our main entry along 186th Street, we're planning a mix of high-quality townhomes along with the Cape Cod single-family home there. We transition to single-family attached product as you progress south, which will be built overlooking two new ponds there. We plan to provide a heavily landscaped buffer along much of the south end of this property, which abuts the existing residential property to our south. Also, as many of you know, Steve is always very adamant about and protecting of saving trees. And there's a small existing tree line along the eastern portion of the single-family attached product that we do plan to preserve much of. Otherwise, most of the ground here is currently open farm ground. Our timing is to break ground as early as this summer in hopes of starting home construction toward the tail end of this year or early next. As always, I really appreciate your time this evening and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We will open public hearing on this at 9:03 p.m. Do we have any cards from the sparse crowd that remains?
We have no cards
No
right now.
cards. Anybody attending virtually, now is the time, if you haven't already, please email planners@westfield.in.gov to let us know if you're going to make a comment on this petition. We'll give you till 9:05. It is 9:05. We are closed as far as the public hearing. We will do a round of commissioner comments, this time starting with Cindy Spolcherik.
Thanks, Bob. And I've talked with the petitioner briefly about my concerns about the project. Overall, as you guys know, the Grand Park Village was not supposed to have any single-family detached, and the difference here probably is that these almost are, they might as well be an attached product, given the tiny size of the lots. But it's something that does concern me with 28-foot wide lots. And we've seen something similar with the weekly product. I'm not sure about the standards on those, but it's similar. Overall, the development has 960 units max, and 640 of those were permitted in this area. And the max number of attached units in the original project was 75 units. I'm confused because the petitioner is asking for this number of units to not be included in the overall 960 count. And I don't understand that, and I don't see why that is in addition, if you will, to the 960 allowed. So this is 33 acres basically of attached. And we're only seeing front elevations. That's part of the concern. They're asking for up to 16 units per acre. No minimum living area requirements for the first floor on any of them. That's the concern. I have other concerns, but overall, the concept plan, I'm not really excited about. I was expecting a little bit something more unique, and this is not giving me that. I don't feel like it's really selling the area for Grand Park Village that I was hoping for, that was kind of promised to us, if you will, back with this project. This does front Grand Park on 186th Street. So that is significant for me. And that's all I'll say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Berkman.
I'll not repeat all of Cindy's concerns, but I will echo all of them. But I do want to highlight what she touched on at the end, which is that this is really a front showcase here on 186th Street, and I'm unclear of how that's going to look from the road. And so that's a concern. The second thing I have a question on is that this area did seem to be in the original plan, the single-family attached and multifamily, but there's an extra box moving to the east off of that, where I think that actually that land was contemplated to be a mixed use and have some commercial. Yes, so that little jut out, so I don't know, not that area, but the jut out there, yes. So I have a question on that, because it feels like we're taking a commercial opportunity and shifting it to single-family housing, which wasn't really, contemplated on this original plan. Overall, I'm just really starting to get concerned at Grand Park that we are not putting in commercial developments to support Grand Park. And so this is, again, a lot of housing, and Cindy's just talking about this not being in this total number, which would, I guess, looking into the future, you think, well, they're going to come back and ask for those residential units as well. And we have got to put some things around Grand Park to support Grand Park for the long-term viability and for these guests. So I know Mr. Sundling just said they want foot traffic. We have tons of foot traffic across the street. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of visitors over there that need a place to eat. They need entertainment. These are kids. So as we just keep inching away on all these parcels, and we see things falling through, like the go-kart project, I'm very concerned, I guess is the word I want to use here, that we would let this space right across from the baseball diamonds, right across from the Pacer Athletic Center, go to single-family housing. So I understand part of this PUD allows housing, so, okay, but we've got to do the rest of this PUD. It's a PUD I really like, and I'd love to see somebody do it. That's all I've got. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Mike Johns.
I hate to just say the same thing everybody else does, so I'm just going to say I pretty much agree with what's been said. I too am concerned with the single-family housing as dense as it is immediately across from the park. I certainly understand the need to have housing there to support the retail business. Makes a lot of sense, but it seems to me we're adding a lot of additional housing that wasn't planned, and I'd like to hear more from the petitioner at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kelleher?
I wasn't here when the original Grand Park was approved. So in this yellow kind of rhomboid thing with the thing sticking off to the side, in the original Grand Park thing, in that thing sticking off to the side, it looked like there was commercial there. So I guess my first question is, how much of this yellow odd-shaped box are we really talking about? Because it doesn't appear that you're talking about the whole box. Yeah, I mean, where does, on the east side, it doesn't go all the way down. So I guess how much of that yellow box are we including in that? And then my other concerns are some of the same as everybody else. With no minimum square footage on the first floor, with an 8-foot separation for some of these, I have concerns about that. So maybe those are some questions that Phil can answer.
Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Phil, can you jump in perhaps and add
Yes,
some clarity here, please?
Absolutely. I've got a number of things written down. I'll try to address as many of those as I can. First of all, if you stay on that map right there, on that box to the east that you guys mentioned a couple times, on the original PUD, the concept plan, that area there was contemplated for single family and multifamily. That essentially mimics what is in the original PUD there. Our concept plan does not eat up all that ground for the single family and the multifamily. So it's lesser, from what I gather, it's lesser than what you see there. So hopefully that addresses that comment. On the square footage and kind of more detail, we can absolutely provide more detail on that. We'll add additional minimum square footage requirements and all that, so that should be no problem at all. As for the commercial, we really want commercial there. We really want retail. And as I mentioned, almost every user we speak with, they love the Grand Park traffic. They love the evening traffic and the Friday through Sunday traffic. Their concern always comes back with, well, what about Monday through Friday lunch? How do we stay open and operate a restaurant or a retail business, during non-peak hour? And I think that's where this product comes into play mostly. That's when you have, your local residents that are there full time. They can go there for lunch or work from home and go out to lunch there. So that's really what how this product supports that retail. As for the entry, I think, Kristen, your comment was the entry from 186th Street. We developed Chatham, Bridgewater. Our entries are going to be, in my opinion, they're beautiful. We will add some more detail if you want there. That's no problem at all. But we'll make sure it's something that when we get the millions of visitors a year into Grand Park and along 186th Street, they're going to look to the south and see something really high quality and think highly of Westfield. There's no doubt there. So we can provide a little bit more detail there and make sure that that's looking really good. On the number of units, we're working with a number of groups, obviously, throughout the entire 220 acres. We can explore reducing that, the added units here in this particular amendment. We don't want to back ourselves into a corner with passing up a very high quality project just because we're out of units. So, for instance, Chatham, I think we got approved 1,500 or something units originally. We ended up using far less, but it just provides us some flexibility there. So, but we'll explore that a little bit. I think that addresses most of the comments. If there's anything I missed, I'm happy to address.
Phil, this is Jenny. You have pictures of two different types of dwellings. One is the multifamily, and then the other are the kind of cottage homes. Are these in addition to other things that you would put on it, or is these the only two that you're talking about? And if so, where would they be? Because these farmhouse types are going to have to be alley load.
Yeah. So there's 3 products total. There's the single family attached. So we've got a duplex product that you see in one of the character exhibits there. We've got a larger multifamily townhome product that there, yes. And then we have the single family detached. As for different styles and kind of unique architecturals, there will definitely be more than just 2 options. We'll have an assortment of options there that we'll introduce. We don't want it to look redundant by any means, so we'll definitely make sure that there's
right. And I understand that the single family attached will be at the southernmost portion. Where will these other 2 products be?
So if you go to the north end, if you would, Kevin, or whoever's running that, the townhomes, the larger townhomes, that's kind of the dark, we'll call it a peach. Yeah, that's those. The single family detached is the lighter yellow there, yes. And as Cindy mentioned, it's a single family detached product. The density there, is more similar to a townhome. It's just usually, you're going to get higher value, higher AV units there with the detached. It'll function very similarly to an attached product.
Right. So you have your house on the street, and then the garage will be behind the house and alley loaded.
That's correct. Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
The streetscape there, Jenny, just to provide some context, the streetscape it'll have a really nice kind of urban feel to it. A village-like feel to it with the fronts of those closer to the street.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to Andre Maui.
So I'm with Kristen regarding the desire to get some commercial up there. It's a little tough since we've already acknowledged that this is going to be residential. I do hope that what I heard from the petitioner, that this will bring enough foot traffic for the Monday through Thursday to kind of support getting some of that retail up there. I don't want to lose that opportunity, so I echo that. Going back to Cindy's comment, I had the same concern as far as how this looks from 186 with all the visitors, and the response that I heard as far as having a high class entryway. That's great. I think it's beyond what the entryway is, though. I mean, it's to the extent that you can see into the property and what the arrangement and layout is to have something other than just grid pattern, maybe. So I don't know what the right arrangement is, but I'd say it needs to be more than just a really high quality, monument entry and so forth. It's more about the layout and right now the way you got backs and sides and a lot of things just lined up very linearly that you can clearly see from 186. I'd be looking for a little more creativity and wow factor there. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Victor McCarty.
I'll try not to, I'll try not to repeat too much of what's already been said, but ever since this was first introduced at City Council, it's been on my mind because I drive 186 every day to and from work, and so I've been trying to envision how this is going to look across from the pack, and as aforementioned, as it's already been mentioned, I just don't know if this is the best use of space. Maybe it'd be better to, next door to that, the entertainment and general commercial was labeled. Why not just have a strip all the way across of entertainment and general commercial, and then behind it, much like on 191st, you transition into the living dwellings. Because again, I just don't know if that really meets the feel of, oh my gosh, we got thousands of people at the PAC, thousands of people at Grand Park, and you look across the street and it's just houses or townhomes, instead of being able to just walk across the street and go eat or go shop or do whatever of the need. Before I forget, I will say I do appreciate the update of what's happening there at the Lake Village, because again, just driving by there every day, I'm like, when will this start to happen? So I appreciate that businesses want that foot traffic, but the foot traffic is there. It's just, okay, how do we complement what is happening during sporting events, and also how to have a sustainable plan to keep those businesses open throughout the week. So again, I just think it'd be great to have the entertainment and general commercial up front, and then transition into living dwellings behind there. So that's just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Schmitz?
I share the concerns that others have raised about 186th Street, particularly with seeing mostly backs and sides of buildings, entirely backs and sides of buildings, and we don't have renderings of what those backs and sides would look like. So taken together, that's concerning. Anyway, that's been mentioned by others, so I think that's really all I have.
Thank you. Couldn't agree more with most of the comments, particularly what is it that 186th Street is becoming here. It's almost looking like the one building that fronts towards 186th Street shouldn't be there, because otherwise we're looking at sides. And somebody made the comment that it's not so much the entrance, I think it was Andre, that there's a lot of frontage there that all needs to be properly addressed to make this look like it belongs there. And I would certainly not be inclined to start taking a look at the maximum number of dwelling units at this point in time. If whatever it is that evolves over the coming months and years becomes a problem as far as hitting the max number, that's the time to visit with it, not now. So I'll let it go at that.
Bob, may I just get one clarification
Yeah,
quickly?
absolutely. Jump.
Phil, you mentioned that little, I'm back on that little jut out, that had been contemplated as multifamily. And I'm trying to go through the old PUD, so I would just appreciate a clarification. I thought those were a mixed use with some type of commercial on the first floor and multifamily on top of those particular little yellow, I'm sorry, I'm looking at they're yellow buildings. Can I just get clarification on that?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
If you need time, that's okay. You can get back with staff.
I'll dive into that to verify, but I believe the original PUD, I'm looking at it here, ordinance 1246. I don't know if you have it in front of you. I'll shoot you an email with it after this call, if you don't mind. It calls out for that area. It shows a different type of building there, but it calls out for single family and multifamily. Again, if it's misrepresented, or if we're wrong on that, obviously we'll get that addressed. But our understanding is that is contemplated, or that was originally contemplated for that. But yeah, we'll definitely dive into that a little bit and get some clarity. And if you don't mind, I can address a couple of those other comments. Is that okay?
Please do.
Andre, I appreciate those comments. The perimeter, and I think Victor and Dave, you also mentioned it as well. The perimeter along 186th Street, we can definitely look at that and explore some, adding some detail there for some creativity, whether that's turning homes or adding buffers or mounds or something like that. We'll definitely explore something there and get back with you. Victor, on your comment on, I think it was the entertainment and general commercial along 186th Street, we definitely would love that. I don't think we'd push that away. I think the hard part is, like I mentioned, 186 is different than 191st and State Road 32 in terms of traffic. Far less here, obviously. It's hard for those types of uses to be supported here when there are options elsewhere, you know, like State Road 32 and like 191st. So if it did make sense, if there were options for that, we certainly would push those south and accommodate that. But I think it'd just be it'd be pretty tough to attract users like that there. Dave, your comment on the backs and sides, we'll get more. We'll provide you all with some more details on what those homes look like in terms of side elevations and rear elevations. We'll get those added, and I think that addresses all the remaining comments.
Thank you. If there aren't any additional comments from plan commissioners, we'll move on to the closing items for our agenda.
But before we move on from this
Sure.
one, I just want to make a general kind of comment and observation. We've routinely heard from the hospitality industry, you know, hotels, restaurants, entertainment, that rooftops are needed, right, in order to support. I mean, I'm just kind of reinforcing what we heard tonight. Rooftops are needed to support commercial activity anywhere really, but especially around Grand Park. Grand Park traffic alone, it isn't enough for some of those folks. I mean, it helps and they love it. It's like icing on the cake, right? I mean, they need that daily kind of residential support that they can count on day in and day out to be their customer base. So it's important to have residential nearby, and walkable is even better. But if you even zoom out from Grand Park and Grand Park Village, I mean, honestly, all of the area that we talked about tonight, the residential area, is supporting exactly what we're talking about here. It all is working together, right, to support this new area of commercial for our community near Grand Park. So I think we just need to keep that in perspective, especially when we're talking about densities and all of those sorts of topics. I mean, those are also important and very, very valid and critical discussions as well. But when we're looking at a bigger picture of our community, it all works together, and we can't just isolate out areas and not think about how it works together, especially when we're evaluating and criticizing different aspects of projects, and then we say, well, we need this, but we can't have it. We can't have one if we don't have the other.
Right,
So.
and I understand that
Go ahead.
and agree completely that as large as we've grown and as explosive as our growth seems to be, the people that we want to be able to have in our community to do business with need more of us here to do business with them, so that they'll make it worth their while. And as shocking as it seems at times, we're still needing some population, particularly in certain areas, to make these things viable. And I wasn't looking to suggest that we needed to not have residential here, but that we do need to treat this residential carefully, get some better ideas of what it really will be. And it's an interesting housing type. The elevations of the single-family detached look like something that 11th Street proposed in Lebanon just this week here. Some very narrow things for an entirely different purpose. And I'm not sure what the target market is for these, but I'm certainly, it's not the same people that were going to be possibly occupying these things in Lebanon. But, you know, it does all connect. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Kevin, it's Ginny. I agree with you. And I think one of the questions that Kristen asked earlier in the day was, can we get an overall map of the whole area to kind of see what the densities are, not for houses, but just to know how many homes we have and what businesses. And they're in this Purdue course, they talked about looking at your residential and looking at your commercial and figuring out how much you needed of each, because it's kind of frustrating to guess at it. And I'm sure maybe even Phil could help us with that, but I'm sure developers could, to give us an idea. I don't want to get so lopsided one direction, and, you know, because there is a balance to everything.
And definitely figuring out how much is very critical, but we ourselves wouldn't have the knowledge and expertise to know exactly where it should be, and that was also part of one or more of those numerous lessons that
Well-
you need to put it in a place where it's actually gonna be able to be successful.
Sure.
And it takes more of it in one place to be able to be successful. You can't have individual little pockets.
Right.
Can I complicate the matter just a little bit more? Just because it's already so late, why not? I do need to add in, this is in a TIF area. And I believe that was the reason that there wasn't supposed to be single-family detached, and there was the limit on the single-family attached. Because the money from the apartments, that tax money then goes back to help fund Grant Park. You know, and it's a tricky place to be, because when we start using up land that's in these areas that could be generating those tax dollars to fund the improvements that we've done now in Grant Park and Grand Junction, you know, we take those opportunities out of the array. So, I mean, it's just something to consider, and it's one of the reasons that single-family detached was not something that was considered for the area. So I just wanted to get that in there.
Thank you. Kevin, you were gonna say something else?
Sorry, I couldn't understand what you were saying, Cindy, so I'll go back and try to listen and understand your comments. It was just muddled for me, so.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, and like I said, man, I think we're all moving in a good direction. I'm not trying to isolate out individual projects either. I think we've got this plan in place, and we're working on building it out, right? And you know, I don't know. I just think we're heading in a good direction, and these are all great comments and reflections and things to think about and consider. And we can certainly work on getting some of the data that's been requested. It's not readily available. Sometimes I wish it was, and it's a pretty big undertaking, but we just don't have it right now. So anyway, I'll stop before I say something that I'm not
All right.
ready to talk about yet.
Very good. We'll wrap it with the usual reports and comments. Plan Commission members.
Bob, I just wanted to bring up briefly, because I know it's gotten late, but we're all taking this course, and it's really highlighting the importance of having a comp plan that is a good guide for not only our community, but for developers to come in. And I'd just like to kind of throw the idea out there for the Plan Commission to consider. And Kevin and I touched base earlier today, really to have more discussion at our next meeting. I think the agenda is shorter and it's late tonight. But should we take a look at the addendum for the downtown Westfield that was done in 2016 and build upon it? Certainly not disregard it or anything like that, because it's a lot of great work and it's a great foundation. But I think we're seeing some confusion, you know, just looking at Old Town's project and kind of that path where I believe they brought in some character exhibits 2 years ago. They've taken those and, you know, revised. And then I think they did some renderings of a bridge over 32. Now they've revised again for the parking garage. And I just use that as an example that there's just been a lot of iterations for the downtown just with one developer. And do we need to take a step back and make sure that we're providing enough certainty and information for the development community in that addendum so they feel comfortable coming to our community and investing? So I'm just throwing it out there to see if we can put it on the next agenda. Everybody can think about it. As we've gone through the class, I actually have one community I'd like to send the link to everybody to look at what they did as a downtown plan. It's got some components that maybe that addendum doesn't have that could maybe be helpful. So that's it. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate the time.
Sure, no problem. Anybody else have any comments furthering what Kristen's brought up or anything on their own?
Actually, I had a rather undeveloped thought that I was going to try to share here, and Kristen really set the stage for it, because it was actually about comp plan. We had a lot of discussion tonight about density, which is a common theme here, and it seems like we need to maybe clarify a few things and go back and revisit. And I hear a lot of things from, for example, with Dr. Kelleher's involvement at that time, which I think was spectacular. I don't think, had I been involved, there is anything I could have contributed to make it any better than what we have. And yet sometimes it's what we meant was, and I understand now, of course, things come out and as petitioners interpret it one way and maybe we look at it a different way, we realize that maybe there's some gaps there. And I'm not pro-density. I don't want to throw that misperception around. I really like, in many ways, what Westfield was when I moved here 22 years ago. But I'm very hesitant to try to impose a stronger interpretation than what it actually says based on what either we intended then or what we would like it to be now. If that's the case, let's update it. And that's what I want to throw out, kind of in a similar vein as maybe we need to start looking at that comp plan again.
Andre, it's Jenny again. I agree with you. I think what happened after the comp plan is it gave us all kinds of recommendations. These are the kind of things you need to put into your zoning ordinance to achieve what you want, to make it clear for the community and developers. And we really never did that. So I think rather than redoing it, which would be a tremendous process, I think having some discussion on some of the issues that we have and talking about maybe we need to update our UDO on certain areas. So I'm in agreement with you. I think we had some general and some specific ideas, but then we never took the next step, which was to then write some ordinances that achieve that or make it clearer. So I'm on board.
Yeah, and it's not like we need a major overhaul. You know, it's plugging a few holes, maybe in some minor adjustments based on what we've learned now from living with it for a few years, and go back and apply those lessons and modernize a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Food for thought.
Yep, just real quick. I just want to thank my fellow board members again for the opportunity to speak earlier on the Winterberg, because even though I'm being part of the commission, and also I haven't said this in a while for those playing bingo at home, but having lived in that area my entire life, I try to set aside any attachment to the area as much as possible. And so when we talk a lot about the comp plan tonight, I was barely a freshman at WHS when the comp plan was written. So I try to do as much research as I can before any project comes to us at APC to just make sure I'm doing the best job that I can possibly do regarding the comp plan or just what Westfield is trying to be currently. And so I just, again, thank you, and I try to learn as much as I can, and I think all the discussions that we have is very helpful for forming what we want Westfield to be in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything from our city council liaison to bring up tonight?
I can give you a quick update if you would like.
Please.
So the items that we had recommendations for at our last meeting, including many with conditions that were specified at our APC meeting, those were all approved. So if anyone has any questions, I won't read through all of them. But they all did pass with the recommended changes that we had. We also approved the project and funding agreements for the historic cabin project, and we approved our annual resolution finding the tax abated businesses in compliance. The pandemic has impacted some a little bit, but overall, we're not doing too bad. That's it.
Thank you. BZA, you didn't meet again, did you?
No, we will meet next week.
You're really going to meet this time?
We are.
Okay, we'll look
We're
forward
committed.
to your update, if you remember how to do them. Community Development Department, I'm just being silly here. Community Development Department?
No, just quickly wanted to announce that Randy Graham has stepped down from his position on the Plan Commission. So that's why we have an empty seat tonight. We're actively looking to fill that hole. So just want to publicly thank him for his many years of service with us over the years, and both Plan Commission and BZA. I know he's probably not even listening to this, but just thankful for his service to our community. So he'll be missed.
He was a great addition, and absence will be missed, but I invited him to come to our public hearings and speak every now and then, or just sit in the back row and make faces. He said he'd think about it. Is there anybody that cares to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Victor,
Second.
second from Dr. Kelleher. Do we need to call the roll on this?
Yep. Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes?
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz? Ms. Spiljerik?
Yes.
Ms. Bergman?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
We are adjourned.